Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine, aka the High Heeled Gamer, and welcome to the Late Night Nerd Show. With me today, I'm super excited to have one of the hosts from Board Game Coffee on YouTube. I have Mark Maia here with me. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
How you doing
How's
today?
it going?
It's going pretty good so far. Thank goodness. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. I had a question.
Yeah,
So you're the high-heeled gamer. Do you wear a lot of high heels?
I do actually. So funny enough, let me try to.
You wearing them now?
Bam, shoes of the month. Yep. Yeah. So I stream video games and every month people get to come into my stream and get to see new shoes. So I have a shoe cam on my stream and every month they're new, fun, funky, out of the ordinary, crazy high heels that people get to see. So yeah, I have.
Those are awesome, and those are high. Those are
Yeah,
high,
yeah.
high. So
Yep.
are you one of those girls that are like 5 foot and then you put on the heels and makes it
I'm
like 5'8"?
5'3". I'm average. Thank you very much. And then I put on the shoes and I'm 6 foot. Like, I look people in the eye. But I'm also a sneakerhead too. So it's not just high heels. Like I'm a big sneakerhead too. Like I love shoes, period. Any kind, flip flops, sandals. I love them all. So
Yeah.
I'm a big sneakerhead.
Sneakers is another thing, that I've not let myself we were talking about Lego. Sneakers is another thing because I love, like if I'm walking through the store and I see a sneaker that, like, pops, I was like, "Okay, I need to have it." Like, I have a, set of Nike high tops that are, like they have sunflowers on them, and I
Oh,
just love them. I was like, "Gotta have them." I had a pair of Adidas shoes that was like a set where it was like I had a bright red set with white stripes and then a black set with white stripes, and I loved them,
yeah.
and they matched, they were just different colors, and then my dogs took them outside in the winter, and they got
No.
buried in the snow, so
No, don't you're breaking my heart because the red ones were the ones that I wanted so bad, and I could never find them in my size.
yeah.
Um, those were a struggle to find, and I never received those. So, oh, I'm jealous, and now I'm like sad at the same time for you.
They're like my favorite shoes, and they're they're gone now.
Oh no, that's yeah. It's a I have a lot of different collection vices, I guess you could say, because like I was just talking to somebody, and they were like, "How many pairs of high heels do you have?" And I was like, 70. And I've got like about 20 to 25 pairs of sneakers. It's terrible. And then everybody knows about my collections of everything. Yeah. It's it's wild over here.
Yeah, and just to give you a point, like, I'm not collecting like, sneakers, and, I counted once, and I had 30 pair, and I'm not collecting them.
And you're
So
not
that's what
collecting
I'm
them.
saying, like, I can't, like, there's so many I want, but I was like, "No." For me, it's just I just don't look. If I
Oh, okay.
look, then I want, so I just don't look. I just
I
don't go to
say
the
I don't look
store.
and somehow I find
They come to you. Right?
somehow magically. But, like, you know what else too? Like, I've been obsessed with the people that customize sneakers.
Mhm.
So I watch wrestling, and New Day is a tag team group. I don't know if you watch wrestling or
I
not.
don't anymore. I used to.
Oh, okay. So there's a tag team group called New Day, and they rocked custom shoes, and I was like, "What is that?" And I started following, and that was a whole different rabbit hole. I was like, "Man, if I could afford this stuff, yeah, it'd be even worse." So I completely feel you. But there's something that you like. So you do board game coffee on YouTube.
Mhm.
What's your board game collection looking like? Because that has to be, yeah, I was getting ready to say,
I if I had to guess, it would be somewhere between 450 to 600
that's
games,
impressive. Wow.
and, again, last time I counted, I had over 400, um, and they keep coming in. Like, I've stopped buying them, but since I have a channel, I do a lot of content,
Mhm,
so
mhm.
I get sent a lot of games, to do unboxings or to do how to plays or whatever, and it's funny because I've gotten the odd comment, it's like, "I don't trust your opinion because you get sent games for free." I was like, Well, first of all, I'm not giving you an opinion, I'm just doing an unboxing, I'm teaching you how
Yeah,
to play it. Getting it free has doesn't change that at all. I don't
yeah.
do reviews for any games that people pay, like, I don't take pay for reviews.
Mhm,
So, it's
mhm.
like, if I'm doing a review, you get a honest review, but I don't do a lot of reviews because I have so much content to do that
Yeah,
is, like that is paid. So, and
exactly.
if I do
And
an
you
unboxing and it's like I'm just looking in the box, and if I
Yeah.
like what's in the box, that has nothing to do with it's like, well, you can see it. I like it, you don't like it. It's I'm not playing the game. It's a
And
complete
you have it categorized pretty good. Like you say review, you say
yeah,
unboxing, you say how to play. Like
all
it's
color coded. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I which let me just tell you, my little OCD self was so happy to see that on your channel. I was like, "Oh, this is so pretty. Like I like it like this. Like I know what I'm looking at." And I thought that was pretty impressive. Have you always had it like that? Like I didn't
Yeah.
go like super far back, so I didn't
No,
know
yeah.
how.
From the very beginning, the very first thumbnail, I did on my phone, but as soon as I got to a computer, I decided I want to establish, like, a look for the thumbnails,
Okay.
and I did that. That was it. Our logo changed. So, like, earlier videos, it has a different logo in the video, but
Mhm.
I updated the thumbnail to have the proper logo.
Gotcha. Okay,
Other than
okay.
that, the look was the same with the words on the side and the
Yeah,
band.
yeah. I thought that was so ingenious. I'm like, because that way you know what you're looking for. Because if you already have the game, but you're like, oh, I don't want to read these, or somebody might like my husband who has dyslexia and it's difficult to read. It's good to have the how to videos and actually see because some people are visual learners as
Mhm.
well. How did the channel start? Was it just reviews first, or just how tos first, or was it like I'm going all in, I'm doing everything?
The channel started was, like, the history behind the channel is I'm a video game designer by trade. So I worked in the video game industry, but for 24 years, and at some point but I'm not a programmer, so I work with programmers to make things happen. But I decided, you know what? I'm gonna make a board game on my own because that's something I can design, I can make a prototype all on my own. I don't need a programmer. I can do it by myself. So I started doing that, but as I was doing that, I was listening to a lot of podcasts about getting your board game made, and everybody was saying how you need you need to have like presence in the board game community if you want to have your board game do well on like Kickstarter. So I was like, okay, I'll do that, but I don't know how to do that. Now, if we rewind a few weeks or a month, my wife was asking me to do she wanted me to do a channel or a website where I taught people how to play games. And I told her I don't want to do that because I didn't want the camera on me. I didn't want the attention of the camera being on me. I didn't want to do it. And then after I heard this podcast, and she came home one day and she was like, "Come on, let's do the channel." And I was like, "All right, fine." It works into it's like I want to get in the community, so I'll do it. I did the channel, and now the channel's taken off, and
Mhm.
the board game that I was designing has just been put aside for now. Well, I'll get to it at some point, but right now it's been put on the back burner.
One day you'll get to it. That sounds but that's actually, pretty interesting that it was you didn't really kinda wanna do it, and then boom, look what happened. Now was it what people would perceive as overnight, or was it, like how long before the channel actually, like, blew up?
I guess it started like well, early on, I was getting recognized at some cons as being the miniatures guy, which is like Simon, the guys who do like Zombicide,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
mentioned you played. They, for some reason, I got people started recognizing me as the minis guy. So I did a lot of unboxings and I showed miniatures a lot, and they were like, "Oh, you're that guy." So, but I say this channel started taking off amongst people in the industry. About 3 or 4 years in, but as far as fans go, I'm still, like, fine but, like, a lot of people still don't know who I am. We're still a growing channel,
Mhm.
and, but it's nice to people keep finding us, and they're like, "Oh, your how to plays are great, like, great quality. Where have you been?" Right?
Yeah.
And, for a lot of people, I am brand new, but then they're like, "Oh, you've been doing videos for, like, 6 years, so you're not new." But a lot of people are still finding me, like, recently, the channel has gone up, like 1,000 subs in like a short span, like less than 2 months. I think we jumped up like 1,000 subs, which was nice. It's just you gotta get that right video, right? And then you
Mhm.
takes off.
Yeah. It is kind of like a trifecta, the right thumbnail, the right
Mhm.
title, the right timing of everything, but you're also consistent. There been times where you've missed uploads or
Yeah, I
you schedule it pretty well?
f no, actually, I was working on this really huge how to play project, and I was burnt out by the time December came around. And then December comes around, and then it's like there's so many people in my family that have birthdays in December, so it's
Oh,
like birthdays, it's Christmas, it's just event after event, and happening back to back. And then we went on vacation, and then we came back, and there was a so I didn't do anything pretty much December, and then we were on vacation for 2 weeks in January, and then I came back, and I was just working on getting the Kickstarter. I was focusing on the Kickstarter for the comic book, So-Called Living, hence the, you know, right there. I was focused on that, and during that time, that's when the channel grew the most because, again, I
Wow.
wasn't uploading as often, but
Mhm.
the stuff I did upload, people really wanted, which was the how to plays for Mythwind, which is a board game, and another one was Tenaris. Um, and those are big, big games. So those are videos just people were looking for. So then that brought them to my channel, and then they stayed, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah. I like the multi-camera shots. 'Cause there's always it's the overhead, it's your face, it's the close up. I'm like, "Dang, I wanna see, like, that rig, like, that's impressive." Is it all just one big rig and you just press buttons kind of like on a Stream Deck type of thing,
No,
or
I've tried
your
a lot of
secret?
different things. So, like, I've done the Stream Deck where I've had a bunch of cameras everywhere, and when I've gone live, I've done that. I did a whole day of playing through Zombicide, actually. Played Zombicide Invader live for my birthday a few years back, and, I had 6 people, I think it was like 5 or 6 people playing, and I had cameras on everybody, cameras on the table, so I was
Wow.
using Stream Deck and just controlling all the cameras,
Mhm.
and, but when I do the how to play videos, I do it all separately. So since I do how to plays, I do unboxings, I do reviews, I always have to move the cameras around because I do so many different things and so many different
Mhm.
camera angles. So I don't have a stationary rig.
Yeah.
So when I do how to plays, I do everything on me. So I'm like this, and then I'll do all the B-roll. So like me moving a piece, and I write that into the script. Like move a piece from here to here, flip this card, roll this dice, do this thing, move this guy, take this
Gotcha.
miniature off the board, and I just do it as just a list, like boom, 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 and then I edit it together in Premiere.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. That's I was wondering because it's all so seamless and it flows so well, and I'm like, "I wanna know what kinda setup he's got going on because it's amazing, it actually really is, and
Oh, thank you very much.
it kept me entertained because 'cause I'm like, "What else?" Like, I don't even have this board game, I wasn't even trying to buy the board game, but I'm like, "How do you play this game?" So, it's very, very and then you said, that you actually did video game design?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For like 24 years. I'm still doing it.
Wow.
Except I went from doing it in an office to, for the last 2 years, I've been doing contract work. So I left the office and I focused on the channel. That's when I started writing and also focused on so-called living. And, and then I took freelance jobs on the side. So, as game designer, and I also go into studios and do things like they might have a game already pretty much up and running, and then
Mhm.
they'll call me in there to, um, I guess, streamline the user experience as far as like what's fun, what could be better, how to keep people engaged, and they're not always video games. Sometimes they're educational, like apps.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's our educational experiences that are digital. So I might go in and be like, okay, we need to make this fun. So I'll play it and I'm like, "You're right, you do need to make this fun. This is very dull." So,
Kids' attention
uh,
spans need to
yeah,
be, like, entertained every, what, 3
yeah,
seconds, I think it was, something like that, so
and I told somebody once that, they hired me to come in and help them with their project, and they're like, "Oh, is this something you find interesting?" And I was like, "Absolutely not. Like, I don't. I think," I was like, it's boring as hell." But I was like, "That's not saying I don't wanna do it. I look at it
Mhm.
as a challenge." Like, I find it boring, so that means high school students or grade school students, they're gonna find it boring. Like, yeah, you're gonna have the outlier. There's gonna be the odd kid that's like, "Wow, I find this little bit of history fascinating." But the
Yeah, yeah.
majority, no. So I was like, "But that's what you want." Like, I don't like it, so I'm gonna make it so I like it. And if I can make it so I
Yeah.
like it, I find it entertaining, then it's gonna make it so other people find it entertaining.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, and sometimes that's just how it is, if you like it, then there and then you also have to think too, like you said, the outliers, you have to really think about more of the majority
mhm.
versus the little bit that might be like, "Ooh, I like straight and narrow history learning."
That's why,
Um
like, a lot of people's tend to, gear things toward, the those loud minority voices as far as like, like the people that are just either very nitpicky or they just hate the thing. If they hate the thing, whoever those people are, if they hate that thing, they're gonna speak about it. So you're like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm getting all this hate. It's like, yeah, because people who usually like things, they're like, I like it, and they sit back and they just enjoy it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you get the odd person that's like, yeah, I love what you did. But a lot of times, I don't say I'd say probably the majority of people that don't like things comment more on than the people that do like things, especially if you add the numbers up, you know what I mean? It's like the
Yeah.
percentage of people who like that comment are smaller than the people that don't like and comment. So
Okay.
so
Well,
th
that's
I so it's like, don't always there's that vocal minority, I guess, is the term, right? It's just like they're really loud, but they don't represent the majority of people who like your product or who like this game or who like this book. They're just that 1 or 2 haters, and for all you know, they might be the only ones.
yeah, true. That is true, but you're right, people tend more to comment on things that they don't like versus things that they like. Have you ever dealt with that on your channel as far as, like, trolls and people
Oh, yeah.
leaving comments aside from the person that that was like
Yeah, and for sure, and I find, like, the more popular the channel gets, the more of that you take, and sometimes it's not a big deal, you're whatever.
Mhm,
But I've called some people out being like, "I understand, like, what you're" I was like, they'll leave a comment and I'll tell them right up. It's like, I'll explain myself, and then they come back with more nasty comments. And I was saying, first of all, I'm not going to stand for like the online bullying in any form. I was like, if you don't like it, like move on. If you don't like my channel, there's so many channels that do things completely different than me. You'll love them. Some
yeah,
people don't like the way I talk. Because
mhm,
when I'm teaching something, I tend to I talk differently. It's not necessarily as fluid. There's more breaks in my speech because I'm thinking of the rules and I'm thinking of what I want to say. I want to make sure it's worded properly.
mhm,
And I also explain things with more pauses and gaps because I want people to understand. Like I'll say something like, I want you to move this here. And then I want you to take this from here to here, and
mhm,
that's how I learn, right? And that's how I teach.
yeah,
That's how I do it on camera. But, there's a lot of people out there and their channels work fine. Again, it's not like shooting
mhm,
down anybody. It's just
mhm,
there's different people that do it differently. And there's people that'll be like, "Okay, now you take your dice and you move from here to there, and then you take your person,
yeah,
you move from there
the
to there,
speed
get the
talkers,
result," and they're just go, and people are like, "Yeah,
yeah,
okay, I get it." I don't learn like that. I don't follow, so that's it's not the way my brain processes information. So I make the video. So basically, I make videos for me. So one day when I'm retired, I'm playing my board games. I don't have to read the rules. I'll just watch my own how to play
watch
videos.
watch your own video. My shoe cam was a result of a troll, actually, funny enough, and so they were like, "You don't wear shoes while you're playing," and I showed them just like I did, and they were like, "No, you just have them next to you." So 2 days it took me to figure out, like, to install the extra camera. I put the camera on, had the shoe cam, and they were like, "That's not your real feet, like, that's just made up," and I'm like, "You know what? Trolls are gonna be trolls no matter what,"
True.
but then I was like, "I kinda like the shoe cam anyway," so I kept it. So, sometimes they're there to
Yeah.
help you and you don't even know it, and other
I've
times they're just there to complain, so
I've had like the recent one I had was somebody commented on the old video and they were saying that it was a Harry Potter game and they're like there's a 0% chance you've ever read a Harry Potter book because you're missing some like basic information that anybody would know. And I was first of all, I've read all the Harry Potter books. But I have a terrible memory. And to
mm,
be honest, like I like Harry Potter. I like watching the movies. I like reading the books, but I'm not like a Harry Potter fanatic. If there's a Harry Potter board game, I'll buy it because I like that world. I like those characters, right?
yeah,
But I'm not such a fanatic where I know all the histories and I remember all the names. Like again, I got an absolutely terrible memory. And to be honest, like I read a lot of books, comic books and novels that Harry Potter, the series, as much as I like it, is not even in my top 10. Like, there's a lot of books I like a lot more. And I'd say some of my top books, I can't remember any of the characters. Like Ready Player One, I loved Ready Player One. I can't remember any of the character names in that book. But that's in my top 10. Amazing. Because I remember the experience. I can't remember the
yeah,
details, right?
yeah,
So like that I love. And then I also had somebody else call me out being like, "Oh, you can tell this guy's only a recent MCU fanboy that he doesn't actually read comics.
Mm.
So I did a video where I took him upstairs to my room, and I have like it's like something like 46 bins, like the long bins
Yeah,
filled
yeah,
with.
yeah.
So I was like, I was like, for those people that say I've never read anything, I don't read comics, and I showed them the video. I was like, this is more comic books than most people own, and I
Yeah,
have a huge digital collection as well because I stopped buying like physical books for like 10 years because I just didn't have room for it anymore.
yeah,
I'm buying it again. I'm buying physical again because I missed it,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
and then I was also pointing out to people that you don't need to be into something for 20 years to be a fan of it. You could watch your first episode of your first Batman movie tomorrow and be like, I'm a fan. I'm an instant fan,
Exactly.
and that's
Yeah,
fine. Your fandom has to start somewhere. There's no like prerequisite. You don't have to watch
yeah,
it for 20 years to count as a fan. That's ridiculous. Like what you want to like, and nobody can tell you how much you like something or how much you don't have to prove how much you like something to anybody. It's
yeah.
ridiculous.
No, you and I are pretty much the same. My memory is like terrible. People are like, "Oh, you're just saying that." I'm like, I barely remember my kids' names and birthdays. Like, I have terrible memory. And for me, it's not Harry Potter. For me, it's Star Wars. So like the characters' names, the planets, the ships and stuff like that. I'm like, it all runs together, and that's such a deep lore
Mhm.
to try to keep track of everything. It's like what? And then for me, it's the experience is always like, "Oh, I love Star Wars," and they're like, "Oh, if you love Star Wars so much, what's Han Solo's birthday and how tall is he and what size shoes he wears?" And I'm like,
Like, I
"I
don't
love
care.
Star Wars." I don't know what you want me to say. Like,
It's
they try to pull out some trivia, and I'm just like,
and
Star
I don't know
Wars."
about you, but, like, as I've gotten older, it's gotten worse because like, I have some comic book facts, about characters, like, I'll name I can know their secret identity and their superhero names and, like, all these details about them that I read back when I was, like, 13, 15 years old, you know what I mean? And then but I'll just read this, new comic book with new characters, and I'm like, "Who?" Like, "What?" Like, "I don't remember." It's like, "What's that character's real name?" It's like, "I don't know." I
I don't
barely
know.
remember their actual names, like, their superhero names, like, I don't know. My
That has
brain is
happened
not
to me.
sticking.
Yeah, it's like it's selective, like, "Okay, we gotta keep this, but we can get rid of that," and then you need the thing that your brain got rid of, and you're just like, "Oh, I don't know anymore. I don't know anything." But
And
it
that's
is
why
true. It
and
has
that's why
happened.
I'm pretty convinced that's why time passes by faster for us the older we get because we remember less, and our time is really just how we perceive it, right? And if we can't
Mhm.
remember the stuff that's happened, then it might as well have never happened. Like, as far as time goes, so
Yeah.
you're like, "I don't remember what happened this week," so, like, it feels like it went by like
Exactly.
this.
Yeah, what was it? We were watching, so my husband put on, this compilation video that he found of '80s Saturday morning cartoon intros, and my kids were like, "Y'all have intros?" Like, they don't have intros anymore, theme songs and stuff like that. They don't really have those kinds of things. Um, and there were a couple of shows that I had forgotten existed, and my brain was, like, firing like, "Oh my gosh." Like, have you seen ever, when, somebody remembers and they get zoomed out of
Mhm.
their present?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That was happening to me. So there was stuff that I was like, I forgot that that existed, and I'm, like, looking at it right now. Like, the what is it? Now I forgot it all over again, that, like, they turn themselves into bouncing balls, and then they come
Like
out and they have little.
Popples?
Yes, thank you. I was like, "I forgot all about this show," and there it
Yeah.
is, so
I had
I
a Popple.
completely I had them too, but
They're 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 great. I used to, like, roll them up and just bing my nephew in the back of the head because we were, like, 4 years apart, so we were a kid, just like
Oh, no, I used mine as a pillow all the time, all the time. But yeah, I had forgotten they existed. I had the toys, completely forgot that they existed. But yet I have like She-Ra and Gem stuff and Smurf stuff. I still have like the old school 80s Smurf toys.
those little
So
plastic ones that they didn't
mhm.
move, they were just, like,
Yeah, they're
in
like
their
this,
clothes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Still have those. But let's talk about So-Called Living, your new Kickstarter, recent launch, literally, as of airing this 24 hours. So I got a sneak peek of it, and It's pretty funny, and I liked it a lot. So tell everybody about So-Called Living.
Yeah, so so-called living takes place in a world where everything exists: vampires, werewolves, zombies, except ghosts, whatever, what have you. Everything's in there. And but the difference between so-called living is you're going to see a take on these characters that you're not accustomed to, but it's not so out of left field that you're like, that's not right. Its personalities have changed. Like vampires still follow vampire rules, zombies follow zombie rules, werewolves follow werewolves rules, etc. So I'm not out there to upset fans. I'm just out there to give you a different perception on like a different personality. Because I
Mhm,
find because what I wanted to do was, and again, this isn't a 100% rule, but a lot of like vampires have vampire rules that they're like savage beasts, or they're very moody and like introspective, and they're so deep and they thirst for blood, and everything is so serious with them. And but these vampires are more like there's you'll meet vampires in the first issue. They're kind of like more like bikers. They
mhm.
talk like normal people. And all these creatures that I mentioned, they live among us. They're not living in the secret. Like you could have a vampire that's a bartender, or at a bar where they have signs on the outside, they'd say werewolves 50% off tonight. So, or like, like instead of like ladies night, they'll have like werewolf night, or ghost night. So, but it's not so ridiculous. So it's kind of like Friends meets Cabin in the Woods type of deal. So we have like an ensemble cast that you'll meet more and more characters as the series goes. And our main story, like our first for book one, or actually this premise of the series, and this happens in book one, is our main character Jack gets turned into a vampire, and he has to learn to live his life as a vampire. And it's not a typical story where he's like, I'm dealing with the hunger and the thirst.
Yeah.
His first issue is like first problem he's having is like, I can't get into my apartment because there's like a no vampire clause. And as you know, you have to be able to invite it in so you can get so he can't
Yep.
get into his complex because like no vampires. If nobody invites him in, then he can't come in. So he's a homeless vampire.
I thought it was hilarious, so kudos to you on that one. That was great.
And you probably noticed in the those vampires I mentioned that's not what they're like. They have a name for them, like at least Nick does. He's one of the main vampires in the issue one. He has a name for those vampires that wear like cloaks, and they're all about like finding their true mate, and they're in the love and the deep and the sparkly chests or whatever. And he calls them forest fairies.
Yeah.
And he's upset because he's trying to explain to Jack after he makes Jack is like because Jack's starting to cry about a situation that you'll read the comic book to figure out. He's starting to cry, but he's not really crying. It's just he feels like he should be crying. So he's like, something's happening. And then Nick, the vampire that turned him, is like, oh no, you don't. Like you're not turning forest fairy on me. It ain't happening. And he basically lays down the law, being like, we're not forest fairies. Ipso facto, you ain't either. And then Jack is like, forest fairy? Like,
Yeah.
what is that? And he's like, pouty mouth vampires running around in their cloaks. So that was, and basically that's like poking fun at like the Twilight vampires
Mhm.
and all your deep emotional vampires.
Yeah. My favorite was the pamphlet. I was like, "Oh my gosh," like, they have a pamphlet for how to do this. It's great. Um, so
Yeah, I think the characters are really relatable, and you only got a taste of like book one, but there's in book two, you meet Jack's friends, and they're relatable. How like like the cast of Friends is like relatable, but they
mhm,
get in things that are like, oh, that's a ridiculous situation that a real person would get into, but you can still relate to it, right? Because
yeah,
you're like, it's a dumb situation that might happen to you, but they've cranked it up to 10, because it's funnier that way. So it's got that kind of like sarcastic humor. And as the story continues, you read that Jack gets in over his head. So he's a bit of a goofball trying to figure things out, but then he gets pulled into a situation that is pretty serious. And you start seeing that at the end of issue two.
and how did you come up with this concept?
I always wanted to just write a comic book where anything can happen. Like, I want a world where everything exists, but not everything's in hiding. Because, like, I was, like, you watch, like, True Blood, and there's
Mhm.
vampires. People know about vampires, but they're still running hiding and whatever. So I was like, what if there's a world, but how we see race today, instead of like, we still have all the races that we have now, but we have vampires and werewolves, and those are the different races that people acknowledge. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So if there is any sort of racism by some people, which you saw the first issue, there's it's brought up. So
Yeah.
it's against vampires, regardless of any. It's like that this person might be racist against vampires. This person might be against werewolves, or but other people are like, it's okay. It's just like our reality, but instead of
Yeah.
replace race with these creatures. So I just wanted to make a world where anything is possible. And I wanted to have fun with these characters and make them relatable. So a lot of like I love reading superhero comic books. I love the big world saving extravaganzas, but I also like when they bring it down to earth and it gets more personal to the
Mhm,
character.
mhm,
So I wanted these characters like their issues they're getting into are fairly small, even when they get into like a global crisis type of situation, it's still about their story, which I guess is a lot how The Walking Dead deals with things, right? Like you read that comic book, except that's all very serious, where it's a zombie apocalypse, but the story isn't about the zombie or the apocalypse. It's about the relationships between people.
mhm,
And that's kind of what I wanted to do, but on a lighter end of things,
mhm,
which is kind of like my humor in general is very sarcastic and poking fun and not and kind of poking fun at things that other people take way too serious.
mhm.
So it's like if somebody takes something too serious in our book, somebody's gonna like basically slap them out of it and be like, "What does it matter?" Like, it's like, why are you worried about this?
I do like that it's kind of playful and fun, with a somewhat serious undertone because there's, stuff happening in Times Square, there's, like, breaking news and stuff like that, and, um, the humor I did see, like, from the videos that I've watched of you, you're very playful, you're very vibrant, you always have, like, this energy, and I'm just like, "If I could bottle that up for my 2 p.m. shutdown time, like, that would be great." It definitely shows, through the comic. Did you have, like, test readers and things of that nature, and how did they respond to that?
For sure. I gave the script off to a few people, and like I wrote the script actually like 15 or 16 years ago originally. And then
What?
I have a lot of stories of like artists that just kind of fell through. I'm not upset. It wasn't like a sad thing, it was an understandable thing. These I
Mhm,
know a lot of professional artists and they're professional artists all day, so it was hard to get them to go home and draw my comic book. You know what I
mhm,
mean?
mhm, mhm.
So, so they dropped out. I'm still friends with them. There's no I'm not upset. I was like, I
Not real
understand.
life.
I understand. It's a lot of work. I get it. Um, but yeah, so I got a lot of people to read my comic, and ironically, the one of the comments that I got back was from an ex of mine who she's not one to give out compliments. You like you have those people that are like, "Oh, you did such a great job," right?
Yeah, yeah.
She's not one to say that, right? So when she was like, "I think the book's really good," you're like, "What?" Like, I got her to read it to basically like, "Does it make sense? Is there something that, like, you don't understand and you can convey that to me?" But she was like, "Yeah, I really like it. I think it's really good." And I was like, "Okay. All right." So I was like so I started handing it out to more people, and then again, that was a long time, put it away for a while. But I shared it with friends that I thought could give me genuine feedback.
Mhm,
So and they also edited my work because I if I wanted to just feel good about it, there's friends I can give it to and just be like, "Hey, just read
mhm.
this," and they'll be like, "Yeah, it's awesome."
Yeah,
Like, I
yep.
get it, and that's what friends are gonna do, and I totally understand that, and I've been in that same situation where, like, even though a lot of my career was giving professional advice and actually critiquing people, but it gets to some point when it's like when it's not my job to critique people, or if they don't ask for it specifically, because a lot of people are just looking for like, "You did a great job." They're looking for that
Yeah.
reinforcement, which is not always a bad thing because it can keep them going.
Mhm.
Right? And then they'll get they'll get the real review when the work is out there, and then they'll adjust. So I guess some people's roles are to be the critic, and other people's roles are to be the kind of like the fuel, the people, they're cheerleaders, right? It's like
Yeah.
critics and cheerleaders. But yeah, so I gave it to a lot of my friends, and I try to word it things not like "Did you like it?" Like "What did you think?" Like explain the story back to me how you understood it. Or if I'm in the room with them while they're reading and they giggle, I'll be like, "What were you giggling at that? Like, what did you think was funny? Did you understand this?
Mhm.
Did you think the pacing was good?" Um, so that it's questions like that I ask. So they don't necessarily have to tell me if they like it or don't like it. And I try to get those answers from asking them different questions.
Okay. And you said you've been working on this for 16 years?
Yeah, so I wrote the script a long time ago, and I've made some hardware updates in the script. So like the script, wording hasn't changed,
Okay.
um, and but I added iPhones that show up in book two. There's like so I don't remember if they were around when I wrote this, but I did update the book, so there was there, and like I was cleaning up the script for book four, and I added an iPad because there's basically a hostess and she takes your information, and it was a clipboard, but I made it an iPad because you go to a lot of these places and they'll take your information on an iPad. So I updated that, but the context of the story hasn't changed. A lot of how people talk is the same.
Yeah.
So other
No
than a
flying
line here,
cars.
no, no. So like no huge changes since the original script, unless I'm reading it and I think I might change a line or two here if I'm like, I don't like the flow, how
Mhm.
that, and then I'll just change that, and that's it.
Okay. I like you when you said you updated it to like an iPhone, I was wondering if you had like the cord phone, home phone with the wired.
Actually, there's in book 2, they are using a cord phone.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I love that.
There's because that one guy calls on his on his iPhone or his whatever, it doesn't look like just like a flat screen phone.
Yeah.
And, he's calling his friend, and actually in the video, the promo video, you'll see um, if you've ever watched this promo video for the Kickstarter, it says, now that we have the artist Marco Leona, and the image coming across, you'll see a guy sleeping in bed, and there's a portion where there's the phone, like with the cord, and it's ringing off the hook. So he's being
Oh, okay,
called
okay,
by
okay.
somebody on an iPhone because originally that whole scene was done. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave it. I'm just gonna leave it. Like this guy in his house, he still has like a landline.
Still has a line. That's great. So have you always been like the comedic type, or was that something were you like the class clown, or was that something you developed as an adult?
No, I wasn't a class clown because I was always, to an extent, I'm a rules follower, which helps when doing how to play videos for for board
Which
games.
is funny because you kind of bend the rules of like the vampire, zombie stuff. So that's
Oh,
interesting you
well,
say
'cause
that.
I've also done, like, because most of my career has been in the creative industry.
Right.
So, but as far as it comes to, like, if you're in class and they're like, "I need you to sit down and pay attention,"
Mm,
I will.
okay,
The only
okay.
time I got in trouble was I am a talker, so anything that popped into my head, I would just turn around to the girl behind me and I would blah, 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 and I never even realized I was doing that until one day she looked at me and she says, "Do you just say everything that pops into your head?" And I stopped and I had to think about it. I was like, "I think I do. Yeah, I think I do." I was like, I didn't realize I was doing that, but I think I do." But, a few warnings like, "Mark, stop talking." I was like, "I'm sorry," like, "I'm sorry, miss." Like, I'll
Yeah.
stop. So to an extent, I try to follow rules, not like I'm not, like, super rigid,
Mhm.
but, yeah, so I wasn't necessarily the class clown, but, and I wasn't popular, I wasn't the class clown, I wasn't, I wasn't, like, super picked on. If anybody tried to pick on me, I did stand up for myself, so I usually, like, shoved them off. So I spent most of my childhood just growing up in this, like, limbo where I had just a few friends who were just in limbo with me, and, growing up, that was a common thing where I used to have New Year's parties at my house where I'd host them, and I'd call it it's like Misfit New Year's. So I send an invite to everybody being like, "If you don't have a place to be, you can come to my house.
Okay.
Just bring a bottle of booze, and we'll
Yeah.
celebrate New Year's together, and we'll just make it up as we go. We'll just hang out." Like,
Oh,
there's no you don't nobody has to have a good time. If you don't want to, just come over and just hang out.
just stand in the corner and brute if you
Or just
need to, but at least
literally
you're with
hang.
people.
And a lot of the characters in so-called living are misfits, like, especially Jack's friends. So he's got 2 friends that you'll meet in book 2 called, Tim and Marv, and, they're cool amongst themselves, right? But, when you put them into real world situations, they're the kind of guys people look at and be like, just head shake, because they might act cool, but
They're
they're
not.
not cool.
Makes sense, that makes sense. It goes per par to what's so far what I saw
Yeah.
in, book 1. Now is Jack based off of you, or is it just, like, your
So,
imagination?
originally, Jack was based off of me, and I used me as reference, some photos of me as reference when coming up with that character, except I think he's got like a little beard or something, a goatee. I can't remember what he's got on him on his face right now. For some reason, I'm drawing a blank. There you go. I can't remember my own characters in my own book, let alone Harry Potter. But he's got this, what's it called, the soul patch. You know what
Okay,
those
yeah,
are?
yeah, the
He's
little
got one
yep.
of those. Um, but his his wardrobe is something that I was wearing in the photo that I gave, and his hair kind of matched with like the reference photo I used when I was
Yeah.
doing Jack. I was like, yeah, he wears stuff like this, and used me. But originally, when I was writing So-Called Living, I didn't know it was going to be a comic book. I was just writing a thing. I didn't know if it was going to be a
Oh,
show. I didn't know
okay.
what it was. I was like, I just want to get this off my chest and just put it on paper. And originally, I had the character named Mark, and I was like, I'm stuck. I can't do this. And the person that I was sitting with I was at a cafe and I was sitting with them, and I was like, I'm stuck. And they're like, try just changing his name. And I was watching 24 at the time, so I was like, okay, Jack.
Like
I'll name him
power.
Jack. So, um, and that it helped. 'Cause all of a sudden, Jack wasn't me anymore. So
Mm,
when I look at Jack, I don't look at it as me, although I do draw for some like references to like how I respond to things,
mhm,
or how I would like to respond to things. Like sometimes, like your internal voice, how your internal voice responds to things. Jack might do it out loud,
okay.
and but he's never me because once I give into the fact that he is me, I'm gonna freeze up and I won't be able to write for him. It's like
Oh,
writing your own biography. That's
mm,
so difficult to do.
yes, I know. Oh, I
I hate
know.
it.
Yeah,
Hate it.
same. Yes, I've been on that struggle for a while. I feel like Brian from Family Guy. I'm like, my second book is eventually coming out one of these days. Like that's when the story of my life because my second book is an autobiography, and I'm like, ugh, do I have to? But I want to. It's like such um, a trying to play that balance scale of like, I want to do this, but do I have to do this? So,
There was definitely it's funny you brought autobiography. I played with the idea a long time ago because I just wanted to write something. And I thought, maybe I could do an autobiography. I don't know how interesting it could be, but maybe I could base it on my life and I could change it, kind of write it like so-called living and make it funny, but based on reality. But then I was like, how do I deal with things that aren't funny? And then also don't want to put it out there where I'll be hurting other people because I want to
mhm.
be honest if I
Yeah,
put it
yeah,
out
yeah,
and I'm not ready to commit to hurting other people
yeah,
because people are close or like it might cause a chain reaction and affect their lives. And so I was like,
yeah,
I don't want to do it.
yeah.
So
It's insane. It's insane. So you've mentioned shows like 24 and Walking Dead, and not Vampire Diaries, True Blood. What fun shows do you watch? Because those are really like serious. Do you watch fun shows?
I do. Well, like I like comedies, but I prefer comedy TV shows than I do movies. It's rare
Okay.
that I go to a movie and I watch a comedy movie and I laugh.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay.
but I'll watch like Friends and laugh my ass off. Yeah, that was funny. Or maybe I watched an episode of How I Met Your Mother and I thought it was funny. But I think Friends is probably so far when I think of like that's my favorite. Like the
Okay.
relationship, the way the banter between all those characters, I think
Yeah.
is awesome. Like I can go back to watch Seinfeld and I was like, yeah, I can appreciate it's okay, but never I don't laugh out loud. Do you know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
that's awesome. It's just different writing styles. So like Friends is the epitome of like laughs for me.
Okay.
Like I don't mind watching that again. But as far as like what I'm watching now, here's the thing is I since I work all morning and then at night, like I'm working all morning on a video game contract. At night, I usually edit videos or work on a script for so-called living, and I have a toddler. So if I do anything, it's when he goes to bed. And so that's around, and he's been going to bed later and later. So we
Yeah.
we might start the process at 8, but he'll go to sleep at like 9 by the time he actually falls asleep. And and then he doesn't want to wake up in the morning. But usually by the time we do that and clean up after whatever we had,
Yeah.
it's like 9:30 by the time we sit down and start watching something. So like right now we're watching the Avatar series on Netflix, like
Oh,
The Last
okay.
Airbender, like the live action.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we went through the whole animated series, loved it. The original movie, just terrible. Um,
Yeah. How are
so
you liking the series?
so far I'm liking the series. I'm
Okay.
enjoying it, and but I don't know if I would enjoy it as much if I didn't watch, like, if I didn't like anime and if I didn't
Mhm.
watch the show first, I don't know, I might watch and being like, "This kinda seems the budget," like, the way the costumes are, because 'cause they're very colorful and very playful, and it's not the costumes I'd expect from a show like that if I just went into it would be more like the movie,
Okay.
because it had more of a darker, grittier,
Mhm.
real world feel to it, but this one feels like, what you'd expect in a school play. The reds are really red, the blues are very blue, everything's very colorful. But
Okay.
I accept that because I'm a fan of the anime, and I was like, "This is what I wanna see. I wanna see it like that." Um, so I'm enjoying the show. I haven't watched to the end yet, but, I'm very much enjoying it, and we have different shows we watch, like, at dinner, we might watch Avatar because we can watch it with the boy, and he'll be into
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And he's gotten good because like sometimes we'll just put he'll play and have like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or Funhouse or something on in the background. But then when we sit down, we change the channel. He's like, "No, Mickey Mouse," and we're like, "No, you have to share the TV." He's like, "Okay." That's fair.
Aw, that's cute.
So, because yeah, we have bad habits. We eat dinner and we watch TV while we
Oh,
eat
I
dinner.
do too.
But it's like if we
I'll
don't,
do
we'll never
that.
watch TV.
Exactly, yeah.
So, and another show that we've been watching, which is totally opposite end of the spectrum, is we started watching The Chosen, which is like, the Jesus story,
Yes, my
and
best friend literally just told me, she was like, "You have to watch it, it's, like, actually good." It's, like, no lie, good. It's
yeah.
good. So that's
So
funny that you say the same thing too, yeah.
so, yeah, so we're watching that in our spare time, and yeah, it's like I and I've rewatched, which I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but I've rewatched some shows that I've seen before, even though there's tons of shows that I wanna see that I've never seen. But, my wife is a lot younger than I am, so there's things that so our lives were different. She's, like, 11 years younger than I am.
Oh, yeah, that's
So
a
yeah.
mhm,
So, and we talk about, like, when I moved, because 'cause I'm from Toronto, but I
okay.
moved to, London when I was 23, so that would've made her 12. And so I was like, "It's funny, I was living on my own, and, you weren't even able to allowed to cross the street by yourself yet." But anyways, so I made her watch Breaking Bad. I was like, "You gotta watch Breaking Bad." I was like, "Breaking Bad's such a great show." And, so I made there's a bunch of these shows that or Deadwood, like, trying to get her to
Oh,
watch
yeah.
Deadwood. 'Cause, like, I like these shows, so I was like, "You should watch them." And I was like, "At any point, like, give it a few episodes. If you don't like it, we'll
Mhm.
stop. I've already seen it.
Yeah,
We've seen it.
yeah.
No harm, no foul." I got her into watching Suits, which is a great show. Um, so yeah, that was I
Those
don't
are
remember how we got here, but
well, 'cause I was asking well,
oh,
'cause
what do I watch? Yeah, what do I
yeah,
watch?
'cause
Right,
it's a
right.
lead-in question to, do you feel like or outside influences on so-called living, do you feel like you see a little bit of, like, the friends happening? I know you said because it's, like, gonna be an ensemble cast that we do get to meet and everybody kinda interacts the same, or is it something that you make your mindset into, like, "Okay, let me try to eliminate outside noises so it's my own influence and not outside influences,"
Yeah.
if that makes sense?
When I'm writing so-called living, I definitely don't reference other things when I'm doing it, but after I'm done, I can be like, "Oh, yeah, it's kinda like Friends," because 'cause I'm used to talking like that when I was in the video game industry. Because every time I'm talking about a video game mechanic, instead of explaining it from scratch, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, like what they did in Halo, what they did in Mario, what they did in,
Gotcha.
Assassin's Creed." So, it's easier to talk in reference points like that, especially so people will be like, "Oh, yeah, just mention something that's popular."
Yeah.
Like, the way I wrote Nick, when I wrote him. the closest character I can think that he was like was Lobo. So I used Lobo as a visual reference for Nick,
Oh, wow, okay,
to an
yeah.
extent.
I can see that now that you say
Yeah,
it. Yeah, yeah.
and then when I got back into the script and then I started watching, like, The Boys, I realized I was like, Nick in my head is Butcher.
Yes.
So I was like, he's Butcher. If I was to cast that show, Butcher would be Nick.
Mhm.
So, like, that's his personality. He's a bit of a hard ass, but you like him. He's like the cool guy, hard ass. It was
Mhm.
like, if you had to deal with him in person, you'd be like, this guy's a dick. But as an outsider looking in, it's like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. He's a
Yeah.
cool asshole.
Yeah, yeah, I can totally like, before that, like, I just he was his but now that you say it, it's clicking, like, I see it now. So that's funny, yeah. I can
And
definitely see the Lobo influence, and then I could see the Butcher
yeah.
influence too, but
And what got me thinking like that was a friend of mine he's actually he's done quite a bit. Like he's done some movie directing actually. He and in the animation business. And he asked me, because he was one of the artists I was going to do this project with, but it was too big. So he's like, because he's busy like directing like big budget
yeah, yeah.
animated movies. So I was going to do it with him. And then we started talking about it. We were in talks, and then he's like, he got too busy. Then he was traveling, and then COVID hit. And I was like, well, that's the end of
Yeah.
that. We still talk, but he asked me, he's like, if you were to cast this as a movie, who do you see playing Jack? And I was like, I don't know. Like I never thought of it like that because when I write, I don't think of them as somebody else.
Mhm.
So I still don't have a good answer for who Jack is. Actually, I did. I just recalled the other day I was thinking of this question again, and if I was to cast him, he's a little too old now, I think, for Jack, but he's not too far off. I can't remember what his name is. You've seen Third Rock from the Sun?
Yes.
He's done so many things since then, but that's my callback, is the youngest guy. What's his name?
Oh, don't get me lying.
He's in, like, Inception. Like,
He
he's
is in
he's
Inception,
he's in
isn't
the
he?
Batman movies, like, he's there.
Is it J Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Yes, him. I was like, I
Yeah,
could see him, his character playing, because I see him doing funny when he was a kid, and I see him doing older, and he's done, like, serious roles, and then he would
yeah.
also be, like, funny and lighthearted. So
Mhm.
and you see him in, like, what was that movie? The Night Before? That Christmas movie?
Yes, yes, yeah, 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 yeah.
Like, that would be without if you take that character, but you take out the sad, like, my parents are dead, so I'm a little moody, but if you take that aspect out of him, that is Jack.
Isn't he the one that also did the movie, 500 Days of Summer?
Oh, I don't know, I've never seen that, but he did a biking movie where he was like a
Okay,
bike courier. I can't remember what that movie was called either. But yeah, he's
but
been in a lot of things.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think he would be my Jack. And
Okay.
the girl who played Autumn, his girlfriend um, Third Rock from the Sun,
Uh-huh.
she and again, I've answered this question as Jill from the first comic book based on
Mhm.
her. It's not that's not accurate. Jill
Yeah.
was Jill, but she's the closest character. But
Got it. Okay.
I always say it as that she's based on Jill, or
Yeah.
Jill's based on her. It's not. It's just like that's when I made it, I was like, oh, she's kind of like Autumn.
Okay, okay. Now which I thought was excuse me, which I thought was hilarious, Jack and Jill, and where you see all of that happening, I'm like, this is great. It's cheesy, but it's like a good cheesy, not the, "Oh my god, this is such a dad joke" type of thing.
Yeah, and
But I love a good pun too, so
it's part of my stream of consciousness. Like when I write these scripts at first, it's just like they're not formatted for anybody else to read them other than me because it's just a stream of consciousness, like, brrrr, and then I get to things, and then do you ever say something and then you correct yourself, like, "Oh, I've never done this before." Well, except for the other times that I've done it, and then that other time that I did it was, I guess I did do it, but like that's how you think to yourself. That's how I write. So I
oh my
started
god,
writing
that's
like Jack
hilarious.
and Jill, and then when I wrote it, I didn't even think of Jack and Jill like up the hill
Up the
at
hill.
first, and I started writing it, and then so when Nick was responding to it, Nick clued in the same time I clued in
Yeah.
that I did that. And so I was like, oh, they're Jack and Jill, like that. And I thought it'd be funny that like Casper has no idea who he's talking about. It's like,
That's hilarious. Yeah, because he was like, "What are you even saying?" And then he goes off into all the other nursery rhymes. He's like, "What's a tuffet?"
yeah,
It's like, oh my gosh, like it's great. It was nice. I loved it. Um, so you said um that you actually have the other books written out as well.
yeah. There's 8 issues written. So, and I mentioned this in the if you actually watch the video on the top of the Kickstarter page once it's live, because I have a video I share that doesn't, it's a shorter version.
Okay.
Um, but when I start the Kickstarter video, I meant, oh, actually, no, it's in the middle. It's not the start. So it might be in the video I share. I
Okay.
mentioned that like I need to, the first Kickstarter is for books 1 and 2.
And 2, yeah.
So and the way the video explains is like I need to fund these 2 so I can make the next 2 and fund those 2 so I can make the next 2. So the idea is if you
Uh,
like this, like support me so I can continue the story. Like the story is written,
mhm.
but I can't afford to make it until I get, because like
Mm.
I'm not the artist. Marco Leona is the artist, and he's in Italy. So and he gets paid guaranteed. It's not a partnership. I pay him before it
Oh,
goes out. So like I'm already out of pocket for the book.
got you.
So
Okay.
ideally, I'll pay myself back and make a little extra. So because and again, extra is not greedy. Extra is like I need to make
Yeah,
a living, and if I can do it, then I'd love this to be my living, right?
exactly.
And so yeah, so the Kickstarter's for book 1 and 2, and it's, that's it, and I actually give book 1 away free, so people can read it. So you can't buy just 1 or 2 separate on Kickstarter, it's like a
Mhm.
package deal, but by giving away book f 1 for free, I'm giving you, like, basically half the story that I'm offering on Kickstarter for free so you can read it, because the thing with indie comics is you don't know what you're gonna get, right? Because I can read a Spider-Man comic book and I was like, I know what I'm gonna get. It's Spider-Man, right?
Mhm.
Or I'm also not an established writer because like I could pick up something by it's like Mark Miller, and I was like, I like his type of stories. So I kind of know, even though I don't know these characters, I know what I'm getting with this writer. But nobody knows me, nobody knows my characters, nobody knows nothing. And that's the common story for indie comics in general.
Mhm.
So, and I feel confident, so confident in the book that I was like, I'll give you book 1 for to read. And if you like it, like support me on Kickstarter
Yeah.
so I can continue making this story. So book 1 will be free like forever digitally. And then you can support me and then I'll just keep writing this story. And other than like I do need to tighten up the last book a bit, like the last script, because I think
Mhm.
there's one part on the Kickstarter page where I say it's 8 books, give or take. It's really like it might be 8 or might be 9
Got it.
because but if it's 9, that's only if I get inspired. Because right now I need to tighten it up. It's an awkward length for a single issue. So I might make one big thick issue or I might make it 9, but once I tighten up the script, I'll have a better idea. And it's not just tighten up dialogue or what happens, it's I'm very descriptive in what I expect to see in the panels. And if the more you
Mhm.
want on the panel, the bigger the panel has to be.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I see the story happening a certain way. So that's why I just got to tighten it up. That's why it says give or take, but it's 8 is a good issue number. There's a good chance
Mhm.
it's going to be 8 issues.
Okay, cool. And how long does the Kickstarter run for?
It's going to run for 30 days. So I think it ends like it starts March 26th. So I think that ends us at like April 25th.
Okay. I
And
don't know math. I don't know numbers, so I trust you.
so yeah, that's it. So March 26th, that's soon. March 26th.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's scary. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
less than
It's
2
like right
weeks.
there. Yeah. Are you excited?
I
This is
am
your first
nervous.
Kickstarter, right?
This is my first Kickstarter, yeah. So, like, I've done videos for other people's Kickstarters in board games, but I've
Mhm.
never ran my own Kickstarter, right? And I keep telling people, like, I'm a noob when it comes to this, and I am, and I appreciate and I take it as a compliment that people look at the book, look at the Kickstarter page, and they're like, "Wow, this looks professional. It doesn't look like your first
Mhm.
rodeo." That's because like even though this is my first comic book that I've hired an artist to do, I've written the full script. I'm doing the Kickstarter by myself. I'm like, et cetera, all this, all my first time things, right? I'm taking experiences that I've gotten from the video game industry and I'm bringing it into here. So there's certain things like the logo itself, so-called living. That's the only piece of artwork I contributed myself. Like I did the logo.
Okay.
Because I wanted it to be a certain way
Mhm.
and I wanted it to stand out. And I did a lot of research into like comic book titles that I like, right? And like X-Men and Spider-Man, how that looks.
Yeah.
Because I find sometimes what detracts me from picking up a certain indie book might be what the title treatment is. So I wanted something that looked professional and looked good, right? And I wanted to hire an artist that drew in a style that I saw so-called living in.
Okay.
Because I'm a strong believer in if you get the right art style with the right story, it's better than just having any artist do it. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
they might be a
Mhm.
great artist, but their style
Might
doesn't
not
suit
suit.
yours, right?
Yep.
Because like there's some amazing artists that they're like their style is very serious, very dark. That wouldn't suit so-called living's lightheartedness, right?
Mhm.
Because it's got almost like a cartoon mentality to the characters. But at the same time, it's also not an anime teen manga romance.
Mhm.
So early on, when I was looking for artists, I did put out a call to Twitter, and a lot of the response I got were like the manga teen love story. Look, the
Ah.
carnations, the hair. It's very popular. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
that manga look is very popular amongst artists. And that's fine. Like I like manga and there's a place for those comics books, but it wasn't in so-called living. Like I didn't feel like that was the right style. And sometimes I see that in like I'll read like an X-Men book or something, and it's like and it's got like a manga twist to it. And I was like, I'm having trouble getting into it because it's not what I
Yeah.
see with that. But
Yeah.
then, I'm reading something else that is like I'm reading like actual manga, and I'm like, this fits,
Yeah, 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 it makes
and,
sense.
and I'm enjoying it. And I don't think it would look good if it was drawn like a 80s GI Joe cartoon. So
True, this is true. No, I agree with you there. Did you ask any of your comic book friends, like, what their experience has been like? Or do you want and I know you've said you've worked on other people's stuff, but sometimes it's different when it's your own thing. Or did you wanna experience this, um, on your own and not have, um, little gems of, insights on how Kickstarter works when it's your own?
no, not at all. I wanted all the help I could possibly get. I am Mr. Research. I was like, if I can get answers, I'll watch YouTube videos. I'll like I do have friends that have ran very successful Kickstarter comic books, but aside from getting tips from them for like where did you get your books printed, how much do you charge for
Mhm.
shipping, where what do you use for shipping, or which company do you use for shipping,
Those
like
are good
questions like that they
questions.
can help me with. But the biggest question, which is how do I get people to even know I exist? Because I'm
Mm,
confident if people know so-called living exists, they'll read the first issue, it'll do well because I'm confident in the story. But it's knowing it exists and having it stand out amongst all the other comic books that are on Kickstarter because there's so much there. And the guys I know that have run successful Kickstarters, they come at this from an artist perspective. So from the artist perspective, they're coming in with a following already because they'll have like across all their social media, they might have like 500 plus thousand fans of their artwork already. So they go into Kickstarter, they're bringing a lot of that with them, right? They
mm,
already have a lot of clout and
yeah,
they
yeah,
started.
yeah.
So in this industry, in the comic book industry, I have zero clout, right? Like nobody knows who I am. I don't have a comic book following. I don't have an Instagram art page that people are like, oh my God, just does amazing. I got nothing to show people. That's why I gave the first book out for free. So that's why, to an extent, they can't help me that way. They can't help me
Mhm.
to tell them how to make a successful Kickstarter because most of their success comes from the fact that they're successful already.
Gotcha,
So
yeah.
and, like, good for them. So I'm hoping because I got one of, my friends who's, Derek Loffman. He's great on Kickstarter, great artist. I have his art gracing the walls of my, baby's bedroom.
Aw,
And, he did one of our variant covers. And, so I was lucky enough to get him to do that, and I've asked, "Could you spread the word when it comes out, spread to his people?" But, like, I don't know what that's gonna,
yeah.
translate to, because even though he might have, like, 500 plus thousand followers, his campaigns get back for, like, he might get 200, 250 backers.
Mm. Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, where's the other people? It's like
Yeah.
it's such a small percentage that translates to Kickstarter and actually wanting to buy your things versus just like, I want to follow your art on Kickstarter and that's enough for me. I don't need your book in my house. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but he's doing well and like, and he does, he's had multiple Kickstarters. And even though like for him, he's like, oh, they could do better. I get it. Like I'm hard on myself. No matter what I do, I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
they're better. Right. But I'd love to have his level of success. That'd be great. Like to reach that,
Yeah.
be fantastic.
And
So, and I've also like I know people who have worked with people at Kickstarter, so I'll ask them like, "Oh, how does this happen? How does this work?" But again, I don't want to bother them because
mhm,
they're
mhm.
not like we're work acquaintances. We're not like buddies. And at one point, they're gonna be like, "Just Google it, dude. I can't do your work for
Can't
you."
do everything for you. Google
So
it.
I joined the lesser known comics group. I
Yes.
met
I love
them and they're
them.
great because they're a bunch of like indie people and they have
Mhm.
experience. All our books are very different, and but I like just joining in their group and just listening to them talk and asking them questions. And for now, the questions might be refreshing, but at some point, I'm going to irritate somebody.
No, no, the guy I love everyone over at Lesser Known. They are all amazing, all welcoming. They help to the best of their abilities. If they can't help, they do, the whole Google thing, like let's Google this
Yeah,
together and learn together type of thing. So you are in very great hands. I love all of them, all of them. Yes,
yeah,
are
they're a great group. So like
yeah.
I meet with them every second Thursday,
Oh,
and I
amazing.
just listen to them chat, and and it was nice. It's nice. I was able like actually recently. I just remember this because they always ask you like update on your project. I was like, I don't know what else to update because it's not live yet. I'm just trying to like get people to know it exists. But I did get a Projects We Love badge. Like I got recognized as
Oh,
a Projects We Love on Kickstarter. So I
hey.
was like, that was very exciting for me because I didn't
Yeah.
realize that was gonna happen. I was on a Zoom call or something like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
video call, and I was screen sharing with somebody at work, and they asked me about the book, and I was like, "Oh, you can just follow it, just go to Kickstarter," and I was like, "Search so-called living," and I did, and it came up, and I saw this little green heart, and I rolled over it, and I was like, "What
Yeah.
is this?" And it said,
Yes.
"Projects We Love," and I was like, "Yes!"
That's actually really great. Congratulations on that. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
even know that was something they did before it
Mhm.
went live. I thought you had to go live and then they just look at it, but I guess we
Mhm.
found it. And I noticed, yeah, there's a lot of projects that are, like, aren't launched yet that are, like, projects we love. Uh,
Mhm. And the best part
but
is, when it does launch, depending on the category it falls in, people who have backed other comics that are similar to yours will get a notification because I get notifications of like, "This project went live and it's part of the projects we love. This might interest you." If it falls like I said, if it
yeah,
falls
yeah,
into
yeah.
the category that
Well,
they
yeah, I remember
they
because
followed.
I've backed over 100 and I think over 165 something over a definitely over 160 Kickstarters. So I get a lot of Kickstarter emails, but I get so many. It's like white noise. I don't know where they're coming from. So
Yeah,
when they're
yeah.
recommending things, I didn't put the patterns together. I was like, is it because I backed this? Yeah, maybe. Like, I don't know. I get so many because I've backed so many projects. And then
Yeah, yeah.
once you're on the list and they're like, we've got a new project coming.
Mhm.
So my inbox is just flooded daily. I delete Kickstarter emails.
I
So
I, I don't necessarily delete them because there's some that are notifications of like updates from stuff that I've backed. And then, if I'm a big fan, I kind of star certain ones and they'll let me know like, hey, this is book two to the first one that you loved. And I'm like, yes. I can't really say it all out loud because it's part of the budget that the husband doesn't know about. The Kickstarter project usually just lands on our doorstep and he's like, what's this? And I'm like, surprise,
Hey.
Kickstarter. That I backed again. But I do get the notifications of like, this is projects that we loved. It's live now and it, falls underneath the category that you've
Oh,
liked.
great.
So
Well,
yeah, so
if so-called living ends up in an email, let me know.
I will let you know. I'll let you know if it's on there. That's exciting. So are you on social media other than the YouTube channel?
Well, yeah, as far as like the board game channel, which is like Board Game Coffee, just search for Board Game Coffee anywhere and you'll find me. As far as so-called living goes, so I've been so busy with the Kickstarter and focusing on that, making sure everything's right. And and the scripts that I have a Facebook page. Like you can search so-called living on Facebook,
Okay.
and I haven't done much with it yet. And I have we have a so-called living web page that my wife put together that I'm not actually sure if I've seen past the landing page
It's
because
great.
there's just so much going on, and
Yeah.
I'm
Well, I
so
mean, you are very busy. Like, no one, blames you for not having
and
that kind of stuff, but you're like super busy.
I am. I take on way too much, and I'm super nervous. Like, I'm so nervous about this comic book, and people say,
Really?
yeah, because I'm nervous not because again, not because of the content. I'm nervous because, like, I don't know if people will find it, right?
Gotcha.
And I was like, and I want it to succeed. I want people to see it because I feel
Mhm.
confident. If you see it, you like it. But will you see it?
Yeah,
Was my
yeah.
is my thumbnail, will it stand out? But there's like 6 covers total. Each book has 3 different covers. The standard,
Okay.
Elite, which is a guest artist, and then we have the Sex Pod editions. And so it's either if you like that kind of thing, that's what you like. If you like the sexy covers, we have a sexy cover for you. If
Yeah.
you do not, don't worry, we got other covers. The majority of the covers are not. So
So, but do the podcast tour. I always tell people doing the Kickstarter, find the podcast tour, find people that are willing to put you on their show and, promote you.
yeah, and I
Um,
appreciate it.
oh, of course. I'm shocked you have time with like how busy you are. Like I appreciate every second that you're able to speak with me. But also too, the live launches and stuff like that. A couple of the guys over at Lesser Known have done that as well. Where they have people within that circle or outside of the circle do a whole live launch party thing. That's a lot. It's a lot of fun to watch, actually.
I'll write
Um,
that down because
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
I always have a list of questions. I let them talk and talk and talk, and at the end, they're gonna get to the point where they're like, "Mark, do you have questions?" Because I've only sat on 2 meetings, but so far I was like, "I have a few questions," and they're
yeah.
like,
The
"Well,
live
wait, we'll save it
launch.
to the end." I was like, "Okay."
Mhm.
So launch
Yeah.
party, you said, eh?
Yeah, yep, live launch parties, and they count
Gotcha.
down, I think it's within 30 minutes. They do a 30-minute one, if I remember correctly, because I've joined in, as a special guest. I've watched just to help them get the views, share it, stuff like that. So, things of that nature all help. Um,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
definitely, yeah. It's exciting. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
And I love, like, everybody I've met so far has been great, and I love your energy. Like, you mentioned my energy, but you seem so happy.
I am. My kids are not here. My kids are older. My kids are like adults and a teenager.
Yeah.
So they're still asking me for money for stuff like groceries and cell phone bills. And I'm just like, oh, these people, these people. But so no,
Get a
um,
job.
yeah, I'm like, don't you work? Like, why am I still paying for your stuff? No, I just like meeting. Well, one, I'm nosy. That's why I'm very honest about who I am. I'm nosy. That's why I like doing the podcast because I get to ask all the questions. If you want to answer them, fine. If you don't, I'm gonna try to make you answer them.
I'll answer everything, and I like talking with people that like to talk. If I think if
Mhm.
you just leave me and say, like, "Speak," I won't know what to say, but if you ask me a question,
Yeah,
then I go off the rails.
I
Like,
love
I
that too.
once you give me a jumping off point, that's why you ask me some questions, I start talking, and it's like I black out, and then I keep giving out details,
No, I
like,
love that. I
"How did
love
we get
that.
here?"
I had one guest. It was like pulling teeth because I would ask a question and they'd be like, "Uh huh," and I'm like, but say more. Like, tell me more.
Yeah,
No, and I like meeting new people too, you're all the way in Canada. I'm here on the East Coast, and your personality is amazing. The book is so much fun. Like, I really did enjoy reading the book. It had it had good moments where I laughed, especially where he was like, "Oh no," and the guy's like, "What?" And he's like, "No vampires allowed." And then there's like a wreath of garlic at the gate, and you're like, "Damn, he can't even get into his own apartment now." Like, I was done. I was like, "This is great." Um, so I'm excited to see book 2. Definitely gonna back once this goes official live. As of airing of this podcast, it has been live for 24 hours. Um, any final thoughts or words of wisdom before we wrap this up, Mark?
I have no thoughts except for, you know, please back the book. And if you're not sure, check it out for free on Global Comics, like book one, just check it out for free and you'll be good to go. Oh, and in case it's not clear, if you're looking on the Kickstarter page, there's these bunny keychains, and we make those ourselves in this house.
Oh, nice.
So, and it's kind of like a membership card. If you get the bunny keychain, every so-called living project after this, you'll get something. I don't know what that something is, and I've been pretty clear on it. It's either like a discount, like whatever I can do. I want to give back, but at the very minimum, you get a cool bunny keychain.
Well, thank you everybody for stopping by and tuning in. I appreciate you guys so, so much. Go check out So Called Living on Kickstarter. It's amazing. Book one, like he said, is free. Go check it out. Go back it. Go follow and find Board Game Coffee on YouTube. You won't regret it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.